Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to dive into one of the biggest, if not downright the biggest threat to the continued existence of Nazarick at large and of Ainz Ooal in particular, the Corpus of the Abyss, a rival undead organization with powerful magic casters, as well as a leader that could defeat Ainz Ooal, especially now. It is an organization akin to the Great Tomb of Nazarick, and its members are each potentially able to found sorcerer kingdoms of their very own, and in the Evil Eye bonus novel, the two already came into direct conflict with one another, and today we will take a look at how they even came to be in order to understand them better. But before we're going to take a closer look at all of this, let me thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. Also, please check out my video about nymphs. And with all of that said, let's dive into the organization first, which is quite special because it existed and unexisted in the Overlord novels, or to be more specific, Ainz Ooal, aka Satoru Suzuki, made them unexist in order to protect Evil Eye and destroy a great foe. But this was a time when the Corpus was still significantly weaker. To be more specific, in the Evil Eye bonus novels, Kinu Fasris Inveren, aka Evil Eye, was haunted and afraid of a night lich that she constantly had to hide from, and that had a presence in her former country, which gave Ainz Ooal due cause to pursue the organization that this night lich hailed from, Corpus of the Abyss, an undead organization that then Ainz had to take on by himself, for in the bonus novels, he came alone to the New World. But in the canon story timeline, Ainz Ooal hasn't come into contact with them at all, since he had only arrived 200 years later to the New World, and at an entire different place. Therefore the Corpus, its leaders, and that one, had 200 additional years to become stronger. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. For today, we will take a look at how this undead organization was even founded and formed. See, undead in general and undead magic caster in particular are quite different from regular humans, in the sense that they are free from biological time limits. They don't have a set amount of years to live out before they will perish. Their life is endless, at least potentially. They also don't have to eat, drink or sleep, nor can they get sick or freeze to death. And thanks to their immunity to frost and to other environmental effects, they were also quite resistant to exposure. Hence why the undead are free to focus the entire day on another purpose, on a singular one. Now this purpose is more often than not just to destroy all life there is. For all undead hate the living with quite a passion, even if they are otherwise emotionally inert, like Ainz Ooal. But with that said, destroying the living isn't something that they can control. But with that said, destroying the living isn't something that they can just achieve. But it's a desire, but also one that they can control and focus. And elder liches, for example, are especially intelligent, in addition to being driven by their desire to snuff out all life there is. So the undead king, his words not mine, Davanok, was such an undead, an elder lich to be more precise, and he was someone who actually knew that while his lifespan was at least potentially unending, that his magic power was still limited, while being still considerably stronger, being in the 1% of beings in the New World, at least by their own New World standards. His magical knowledge, his mana, and his prowess was not unlimited. He needed to get stronger, he needed to accumulate more and more magical knowledge and wisdom and insight, and he was willing and able to join up with the living in order to become stronger, strong enough that then he could openly destroy them, the living that is. Which is a better plan than just attacking the living mindlessly and therefore drawing quite a lot of attention to oneself. So that's why he joined up with the adventurers. But this plan, while better than nothing, was most certainly not a perfect one. It was quite flawed. His first attempt at blending in with a group of adventurers failed because they grew suspicious after they witnessed Davanok being able to cast multiple fireball spells without being even exhausted at all. Therefore he had to abandon this plan. But he was later approached by Zero, the leader of the Six Arms, the enforcer branch of the crime syndicate known as the Eight Fingers, and he offered Davanok an introduction to a teacher and the prospect of obtaining magical items and magical lore to empower himself further. Now this invitation was, despite Zero's dubious profession, an honest offer. Davanok was a fine addition to the powerful Six Arms, a magic caster of such power they otherwise wouldn't have had access to, so bringing in this undead was a smart move from Zero's side. Any danger he would pose could still be managed by the melee-focused crush damage-inflicting specialist Zero, or his elite force, if his strength shouldn't suffice. And Davanok thus grew in power. He accumulated magic items, such as this red orb that enhances the power of lightning-based and fire-based spells like Fireball and Lightning. And he was on his way to become more and more powerful until, at one point, in 1,000 years, he would be strong enough to end all life. Sadly, from his perspective, Davanok called himself the Undead King, in front of an already enraged Sebas, on a mission to actually rescue Tuare. Now Sebas not only was a bright shining beacon of all that is good and just, but he was also created in the exact image of Touch Me, the strongest supreme being in Nezarick himself. So he was possibly the worst enemy that Davanok could have crossed paths with. But, and this all leads back to the Corpus of the Abyss, Davanok hasn't chosen neither his brief stay with some random adventurers, nor the Six Arms as his truly most desirable outcome, but one out of sheer practical convenience. He had chosen the adventurers because he didn't know that the Six Arms would take him in and accept him. And he furthermore would have chosen the group known as Corpus of the Abyss, and he only joined up with the Six Arms because he couldn't find and therefore choose the group known as Corpus of the Abyss. And while the Six Arms were a considerable leg up, a considerable improvement of his situation, they were still not his first choice. Corpus of the Abyss was his desired group that he wanted to be a part of, but he couldn't find them. He had no way to contact them. He had no way to know that they even existed. Corpus of the Abyss was a myth, a legend, a name only whispered with fear and dread, and almost no one knew whether or not the entity even existed, or in which part of the nation they even existed in and resided in. And there was a time where this was true, because Corpus of the Abyss had only entered existence 400 years ago, before the arrival of Ainz Ooal himself. And it was formed out of a learned experience, while Davanok ran into the biggest problem that he could possibly imagine, namely Sebas. Even if the Great Tomb of Nezarick wouldn't have had arrived in the New World, it is unlikely that Davanok would have ever come close to succeeding in his plans for the crime syndicate of the Eight Fingers. Very problem. And once it would have become common knowledge that, even just among the elites of the Empire or the Theocracy, that an Elder Lich was part of this very organization, maybe the Kingdom and the Empire would have set aside their conflicts for just long enough to wipe out Davanok, which is surprisingly a common thing, because every living being with some amount of knowledge of how the world even works that they inhabit are keenly aware of how dangerous the undead were, and that there could never be peace with them. So oftentimes nations would set aside their differences, their rivalries, in order to destroy the undead. And even if the nations were blind, who's to say that Fluda Peridane and his disciples, or Gazav Stronov and Brain Anglaus, wouldn't have started to hunt Davanok down once they became aware of his existence. And this is the main point why Corpus of the Abyss even existed. Even if Davanok wouldn't have ran into human adversaries, he still got valuable magic items and an orb that strengthens the spells such as Fireball and Lightning, as well as a cloak of fire protection, a very valuable thing for an undead, and a ring of deflection. Furthermore, the Elder Lich had access to magical knowledge and research, as well as scripts and books containing even more arcane secrets and connection to a magical teacher. And there's the problem. Free from thirst, hunger, sleep, or the concept of a biological death, as well as no fear of being frozen or paralyzed, the undead casters became more and more obsessed with knowledge. It became a singular focus, an obsession, and if two magic casters of the undead variant would have happened to contact another, cooperation isn't the first thing they would have in mind. The powerful undead would try to leverage their own magical power in order to pressure the other into giving up his magical research and magical items. And this bitter conflict would oftentimes end in a fight to the very death. And while the two undead are focused on catching and destroying one another, the entire area surrounding them will most likely become aware of two powerful magic undead casters having a bit of a moment. Needless to say that when two parties are feuding, a third one, aka the living, can use this feud to their advantage and benefit and destroy both of them, while the undead are too busy destroying each other's unlife instead of eradicating the living. And undoubtedly, the members of Corpus of the Abyss had their fair share of experience, conflicts, and triumphs of this very kind. But they, over the course of years and decades, became keenly aware of how close and risky these undead internal conflicts could be, how vulnerable they were during these times, and that their own unlife was always at stake, and that the wider world could take advantage and a vested interest in exterminating them all, and even put these thoughts of undead cleansing above petty feuds and rivalries. So a very few powerful undead came together in utmost secrecy in order to avoid conflict and share their knowledge. And how all of this turned out to be will be the next topic for our next video. For today, this is it, and I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Ader Daddy Ader, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burgtod 316, Bezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Thiralshivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia Viffy Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Mervek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Okill, Overlord General Gasper, Patty Pantom, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cunecaracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenukai, and Zonegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.